Let us read Proverbs 29, verses 25 and 26. The fear of man lays a snare, but whoever trusts in the Lord is safe. Many seek the face of a ruler, but it is from the Lord that a man gets justice. A few years ago, a teacher handed out a simple assignment to her class. Each student was asked to write an honest paragraph about what they believed. No grading for correctness, just sincerity. One student who had strong convictions shaped by his faith began writing boldly at first. But as he glanced around the room, he noticed others writing things that sounded more popular, more acceptable. He imagined what they might think if they read his words. Slowly he erased sentence after sentence, replacing them with safer, more agreeable ideas. And the papers were collected. His page no longer reflected what he truly believed. It reflected what he thought others would approve. That quiet moment in a classroom captures something many of us experience far beyond school walls. We edit our lives, soften our convictions, and reshape our choices. Not always because we doubt the truth, but because we fear people. Scripture speaks directly into this struggle in Proverbs 29:25. The snare is not obvious. It doesn't look like a trap. It feels harmless, even protective. And that's how the fear of man works. It convinces us that adjusting, blending in, or staying silent will keep us safe. It whispers that approval equals security. But over time, what feels like safety becomes a quiet form of bondage. The fear of man shows up in subtle ways. It is the hesitation before speaking truth. It is the compromise we justify to avoid conflict. It is the constant awareness of how we are perceived. At its core, it is living for the approval of others, worrying about opinions, fearing rejection, and avoiding consequences that might come from standing firm. If we look closely, it is also a form of self-preservation. We are trying to protect ourselves from discomfort, from being misunderstood, from being excluded. And in doing so, we sometimes step away from what we know God is asking of us. Jesus addressed this very tension in Matthew 16:25. For whoever would save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. To save our life here is to avoid hardship, to choose the path of least resistance, to escape rejection or criticism for the sake of comfort. But Jesus gently warns us that this path leads to loss. Not necessarily outward loss, but inward loss. Loss of closeness with God. Loss of the deep joy that comes from walking in obedience. So the question becomes, when we are faced with pressure, what guides our decisions? Are we led by conviction or by fear? Do we stand firm or do we quietly step back? Scripture gives us real-life examples, stories that mirror our own struggles more than we might like to admit. In 1 Samuel 13, Saul found himself in a moment of intense pressure. The Philistines were gathering, his army was scattering, and Samuel had not yet arrived. The tension was rising, and Saul feared losing the support of his people. Instead of waiting as God had instructed, he took matters into his own hands and offered the burnt offering himself. It seemed like a small adjustment in a stressful moment, but it was rooted in fear of people, fear of losing control. And the consequence was significant. Samuel told him he had acted foolishly, and the kingdom that could have been established forever would now be taken from him. Fear led to compromise, and compromise led to loss. Aaron faced a similar moment in Exodus. When the people grew impatient waiting for Moses, they demanded something tangible, something visible to worship. Aaron knew the truth. He had seen God's power, yet he gave in. He feared the people's reaction and helped create the golden calf. Again, fear shaped the decision, and the result was devastating. Peter, too, knew what it meant to be caught in the snare. Standing in a courtyard, confronted by a servant girl, he denied knowing Jesus. Not because he didn't love him, but because fear took hold in that moment. Fear of association, fear of consequences, fear of what others might do. And then there is Pontius Pilate. He examined Jesus and found no fault in him. His conscience was clear, yet when the crowd grew louder and the pressure intensified, he gave in. He chose public approval over private conviction. Each of these moments revealed the same pattern. Fear of man leads us to act against what we know is right. And though the decision may seem small in the moment, it often leaves a lasting impact. This is why Proverbs calls it a snare. It traps us, not suddenly, but gradually. It shapes our thinking, influences our choices, and quietly takes away our freedom. When we live under the fear of man, we begin to compromise our values just to fit in. We become anxious, constantly seeking validation. Our decisions are no longer anchored in truth, but in pressure. We start to measure our worth by how others respond to us. And without realizing it, we become controlled, not by truth, but by perception. But the verse doesn't end with a snare. It gives us a way out. Whoever trusts in the Lord is safe. This kind of safety is not about avoiding difficulty. It is about being grounded. It is about having an inner security that is not shaken by people's opinions or reactions. When you trust in the Lord, your identity is no longer shaped by approval. It is rooted in Him. You're free to act with integrity even when it is uncomfortable. You're steady even when others are unpredictable. It is a difference between living for approval and living from conviction. Proverbs 29:26 continues this thought. Many seek the face of a ruler, but it is from the Lord that a man gets justice. There is a natural tendency in all of us to look to people in positions of authority for outcomes, for favor, for fairness, for recognition. We try to position ourselves well, to gain approval, to secure our future through human systems. But Scripture reminds us that ultimate justice comes from God. Human authority is limited. It is imperfect and temporary. God, however, sees fully and judges rightly. This doesn't mean that authority doesn't matter. We are called to respect and honor it. But it does mean we must not place our ultimate trust in people. We must not compromise our integrity to gain their favor. The psalmist echoes this truth. It is better to take refuge in the Lord than to trust in man. It is better to take refuge in the Lord than to trust in princes. Psalm 118, verse 8 and 9. This is the heart of the matter. Misplaced trust in people leads to bondage, but right trust in God leads to freedom. And this freedom is deeply practical. It is the freedom to stand firm when others expect you to bend. The freedom to speak truth when silence would be easier. The freedom to obey God, even when it costs you approval. It is the freedom of a life not controlled by the shifting opinions of others. So when you find yourself in a moment of pressure, pause and ask, am I fearing people more than I'm trusting God? Is this decision shaped by truth or by desire to be accepted? And when you are seeking recognition or fairness, ask, am I relying on people or am I trusting God's justice? The answer to the fear of man is not found in trying to be braver on our own. It is found in cultivating a deeper reverence for God. When we see Him clearly, His authority, His faithfulness, His presence, the voices of others begin to lose their grip on us. Psalm 34:4 says, I sought the Lord, and He answered me and delivered me from all my fears. That includes the fear of people, the fear of rejection, the fear of what others might think. This doesn't mean fear never comes, but it means fear no longer rules. So today, hold on to this truth. You do not have to edit your life to please others. You do not have to reshape your convictions to fit in. You're not defined by approval, nor are you limited by rejection. The Lord sees you, He knows you, and He is faithful to guide you. When fear rises, choose trust. When pressure builds, choose obedience. When approval calls, choose conviction. Because the one who trusts in the Lord is not trapped, they are free. God bless.